Hi, this is Cindy Cochran. Welcome to the archives of the Cindy Cochran Show. Remember, I'm live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11, right here on irlonestar.com. You can be a part of the show by calling 936-647-3776. Also, please visit my Facebook page, The Cindy Cochran Show. And let me say a special thanks to our show sponsors, BK Meyer Photography. If you would like to be a sponsor of The Cindy Cochran Show, contact me at cindy@irlonestar.com. Enjoy! Good morning, everybody. You're listening to the Cindy Cochran Show, and it is gorgeous here in Montgomery County. It is beautiful. It started out at 30 degrees I had to take the kids to school. That wasn't pleasant, but I'll tell you, it has just warmed up, and it's going to be a beautiful 65, I think, today. Is that correct, meteorologist Richard Schischler?
Are you talking to me?
See, I knew he wasn't paying attention. I have to do these things.
I have to do engineer things, and...
You can't multitask? You're no woman. You're absolutely no woman. No, I thought it was supposed to go to 65 degrees is what I thought I heard one of the weather people say. And it's so gorgeous today. So anyway, I hope it's beautiful where you are. And just remember, if it's not, just a few feet beyond those clouds or that storm, there's a beautiful blue sky that hopefully we can share with you today. We have got amazing guests. I am so honored because we have Dr. Wally Wilkerson with us, and welcome, Dr. Wally Wilkerson. Welcome.
Well, thank you for your invitation.
Oh, listen, anybody that Karl Rove has nicknamed King Wally, I am so happy to have in here. He is the chairman of the largest Republican party headquarters that we've got here, right down the street from us. The Republican headquarters is like 2 blocks from here. And I finally worked up enough gumption to go in there and talk to the head man. And I got to talk to Mr. Wilkerson, and he is a doctor. He is a family practice. Well, he was not practicing anymore, but he is a family doctor, and he retired in 97. No, 97.
1958.
You retired?
I retired in 1997. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I thought, wait a minute. But he started practicing in 1958.
Yes.
And so he is a true doctor. I mean, a lot of people like to get those degrees, that doctorate degree in something like basket weaving or something. They want to be called doctor. But this is a true doctor of medicine, and we're so happy to have him. But here's the deal. You got to think about this. This state, Texas, was totally Democrat. They were Democrats everywhere. Everybody that held office was Democrats. It was just fully Democrat. And this guy came in 1964, and his vision was to turn this county to totally Republican. And in 1994, that happened. And so that's how recent it has been that it's all Republicans here. Now, if you're a Democrat in this area right here, when you meet another Democrat, or you're trying to find out if this guy is Democrat or Republican, you still have to draw a donkey in the sand, and see if you guys agree, and before you can start talking that kind of language, that liberal language. But it is a Republican-based place here now, and it's great. So, because I see myself as a Republican conservative. And we're going to talk about the difference between or the same as the labels that people put on us. And Dr. Wilkerson, what do you love to talk most about politics? The history of it, or what's going on right this minute?
Well, I'm a true political junkie, and any phase of politics I'm happy to talk about.
That's wonderful, because I was reading up on you and I. In fact, I listened to your whole interview with Nelda Blair that you had with her. Was that last year, or was it this year or last year you had that?
I believe it was 2013, I believe.
Oh, okay. And they did the dinner, the honoree, the celebration. You were the honoree for 50 years of being the chairman. 50 years of being the chairman, unopposed, except somebody tried twice to oppose him. Wasn't going to happen. This guy has made his mark, and no one questions Dr. Wally. And so it is exciting to know that the goodness grief, the longevity, the stability that you have brought to this party here, and you guys are right there. Anybody can walk in and talk to you guys, and he has all the history and everything he can hand the people when they walk in. And how long did it take you to put all that together, that you hand those people when they walk in?
Well, over a period of years, I've put that little history together. Mm-hmm. Besides being a political junkie, I'm a history junkie too. I've been collecting political memorabilia since I became involved. Actually, in our headquarters, we have different types of political stuff dating back to 1952, mm-hmm. which was really the first Republican activity in Montgomery County. Was in 1952 when Eisenhower was elected president.
Ah, okay. I was only 4 years old at that time, and I remember it well. No, I think that now I am like that, a political junkie. I love to talk politics. I love to talk politics and religion, the two things that your mom taught you not to ever speak of in social society. And I love it. And it's hard to find people that want to talk about it, especially if they're on the opposing side of me, Dr. Wally. They just want to argue and get all upset. And I think it's fascinating. I love it. I think that all points of view are interesting. And when I talk to a Democrat, I'm really interested on how they got that way or what made them that way. I know that my parents were Democrats.
Right.
I mean, they were Democrats to the bone. And so, but before my mother got to be about 80 and something, and she saw the light. And she started seeing a lot of things that she had never found out about. No one told her that Democrats believe this way or that. She just thought Democrats for the poor people, and that's all she needed to know. And that's what she based everything on. She didn't understand any of the social issues or that kind of things that they were in, for, and that she had to go, wait a minute, that's not what I believe. That's wrong. And she's very, very strictly religious person, and so when she found out some of the things that they were doing were against what she believed that the Bible said was wrong, she said, "Okay, all right, I'm open to see what the Republicans are all about," and that was it. So I was always brought up. I was brought up that way, but I could see both sides of the story, but I just couldn't understand how the other side believed that story, naming the Democrats. But I do have some Democrat friends. I just want you to know that. I do, and some of those people are wonderful. They're wonderful people. And I think they've got there's good intent in the Democratic Party, and then there's some that's just like, what are you thinking about? It's difficult to understand. So if someone came up to you and said, okay, give me a Reader's Digest of what the Republican Party stands for. I like someone that really only listens to the media, and they really like to know what the Republican Party stands for. From someone like you who has a great heart and very, unbiased and balanced, tell them what the Republican Party does stand for.
Well, I think the real basic difference between the Democrat and Republican Party is that the Democrats tend to believe in big government.
Right.
That government can do everything for you, and that you really don't need to worry about it. Whereas Republicans generally believe that in smaller government, less intrusive government, fewer regulations, lower taxes, and a lot more freedom to do the things that you want to do than our Democrat friends. And there was a time, even in my experience in politics, when it was a much more cordial arrangement between the Democrats and Republicans than it is today. And unfortunately,
Really?
It's become kind of a blood sport,
Yes.
so to speak. But
Yes.
the Democrat county chairman when I first became county chairman for the Republicans in 1964, he was a local attorney named Arnold Smith, and he had served as a county attorney in Montgomery County. He was a very fine man. He and his wife were very devout Christians and members of the Methodist Church here in Conroe. And we became friends, and I mean that in the truest sense of the word. And probably once a month, we would go to one of the local drugstores, which there were about 5 around the square in those days, and they all had a fountain, and they would have coffee and soft drinks.
Yeah.
And anyway, we would sit and drink coffee and talk politics, and frequently, after talking about some issue, I would say to Arnold, you sound like a Republican. And he would just grin, and that was where the conversation ended. But he was a very fine gentleman, and if I ever needed anything, if I had a question about local politics or anything to do with the voting procedures and all, I felt free to call Arnold, and he would be happy to help me.
You see, it's just like with Mark Hader. Mark Hader and I stand on opposite ends of the political spectrum. But
Right.
yet, that guy, I would do anything for that guy, and I think he would do anything for me.
Right.
He and his wife are the most benevolent and sweet and giving people. But why anyone feels like the Democrats are only that way and not the Republicans? Because I have the same heart. I feel the same way that he does about things that I would do to help someone, do anything to help someone, either get on their own 2 feet, or to help them in any way that I possibly could as a servant, because that's how we're brought up as a Christian, as a servant. Mark and I agree, I think 95% about Christianity and what the goal is and what the focus is and all that. But I love that when people have that kind of servant heart and they want to do that. That's great. But then when they get to be so lax in any kind of discipline with that, and any kind of, let's get you where you need to be on your own 2 feet, and because you'll feel better about yourself if you're working for yourself and all, you'll feel better instead of somebody just giving you everything that you need. I understand that part of it as well. And Montgomery County is the most giving, generous county. They have plenty of places for everyone who is indigent or anybody that's in need. They will find a way to meet that need. And I love that about, our county.
Yeah, well, I think you're very accurate in that statement. One of the differences in terms of charitable feelings, I think, between a lot of Democrats and most all Republicans is that Republicans believe in charitable giving more so than the Democrats do. The Democrats think the government should be the one that's charitable and giving. Mm-hmm. And so, again, that goes back to the overall philosophy of big government versus smaller government.
Right.
And Thomas Jefferson paraphrased something he said one time, is that a government big enough to give you everything you want is big enough to take everything you have.
That is a great statement to end this segment on. We're going to be right back after this break and talk to Dr. Wally Wilkerson, chairman of the Montgomery County Republican Party, right here in Conroe. And don't forget, you're listening to the Cindy Cochran Show, brought to you by BK Myers Photography. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
The Cindy Cochran Show, the first daily talk show serving Montgomery County.
Hello, Montgomery County. I'm Rachel Baldwin with Special Olympics Texas, Area 6. Are you a fan of courage? Are you a fan of determination? Are you a fan of acceptance, grace, and skill? Then you're already a fan of Special Olympics. Make it official. Volunteer, coach, and or compete and be a fan of dignity and acceptance. The dedication of our Special Olympics Texas volunteers provides mainstreaming experiences for athletes with intellectual disabilities. You will touch the heart of another person, and it will move you in a meaningful way that lifts the spirit. Please visit the Heart of East Texas Area 6 webpage at www.sotx.org. Also, like us on Facebook to be a fan and be part of Special Olympics Texas.
Tune in every Sunday night right here on Lone Star Internet Radio for adventure, romance, thrills, chills, and everything vintage radio drama can bring. The Players Theater Company Old Time Radio Hour comes to you every Sunday at 7 p.m. with brand new episodes monthly. Our productions always feature actors, music, and sound effects performed completely live. And now you can enjoy seeing each new episode performed on stage at the Owen Theater in Conroe. Check out www.irlonestar.com for information about upcoming episodes. Relive the glory days of vintage radio drama right here with the Players Theater Company Old Time Radio Hour on Lone Star Internet Radio.
In a world where everyone with a smartphone is a photographer, unique images still stand out in local newspapers, magazines, and on the internet. Writer and photographer Brad Meyer has gained a reputation for innovation and quality, specializing in an editorial approach to portraits and event photography. For information, visit bkmeyer.com or call 281-221-4812.
Hi, this is BJ Orner from Montgomery County Performing Arts Society. I'm here to remind you to get your tickets now for all the upcoming events that McPass has to offer. All shows will be held at the beautiful Crichton Theater in downtown Conroe. Call 936-441-7469 for your tickets today, or go to our website, www.mcpass.org, for more information. Hope to see you at the show.
The Cindy Cochran Show, real reality radio.
And we're back on the Cindy Cochran Show. Thank you so much, guys, for staying out there listening and staying with us. We are talking to Dr. Wally Wilkerson, chairman of the Montgomery County Republican Party, and he's been with us for a while, so he knows what he's talking about. 50 years, I think, gives him credibility to say, you know what, this guy has been through it all, and he was there when this was, dominated by the Democrats, and now it is dominated by the Republicans. So it's become a different atmosphere, territory around here, and a little more competitive. Like the competitive spirit is here more than it was years back in the day, and people seemed like they got along better about politics a lot, and maybe because they didn't talk about it, because nobody wanted to talk about it in polite society, that or religion. But the newspapers would go at it, and if a newspaper was for the Republicans or against them, you could kind of tell. I mean, we can tell in the newspapers that we have that are liberal, and that a lot of people. I quit taking some newspapers because I go you guys, I can't believe a thing you say. And so you go to the internet now, though, that the technology that has come up, Dr. Wilkerson, that has got to be a big, game changer, because you don't have to listen to the one newspaper that was in town, or that you can talk to your friends and find out what the pulse is around the country much easier, right?
Oh, no question about it. Technology has revolutionized political campaigning. At one time, it was all about the three major networks, ABC, CBS,
right,
and NBC. Then along came cable, and then along came internet,
right,
and Facebook, and on and on and on. And
right.
So it's a different world politically than it was in 1958 or in the 1960s, definitely. And I think for the better, really.
I do too. I think there's been a great balance of from. I was born in '48, so I went through a lot of the '60s and all that, the civil rights stuff and all, and I was always one that would be arguing with my grandparents or my parents for the African American community, saying, you guys are awful the way that you're treating this Christian, because I go to church on Sunday and learn something that God said, and then I go home and listen at the dinner table and go like, what? This can't be right. And I remember the first time a black man came into the church where we were, and my aunt, who was the sweetest, the generous, wonderful lady, had got upset and told, our family, like, he needs to go where they go. I can't believe he came in here and had the gall to come. I was just shocked. I mean, that was so against everything that we sang about, that we listened to in preaching, we listened to, and that got me started on the, I need to make people aware that this is not right. This is not what God would want, and all. And it was so interesting to me that back in that time that people were still feeling that way or thinking that way. And I know we talked about, like, when the Civil War came, and that Abraham Lincoln and the Republicans were fighting to free the slaves. The Republicans were. And we got saddled because of, being in the South and all that, with the perception that, that all of us are prejudiced and racist and all that. And do you think that people miss out on that, on the history of where the Republicans stood, on what side, and how they helped get the Civil Rights even Act through?
Oh, I think there's a misconception and probably a real, if you want to say, maybe an ignorance of history and what was taking place. I grew up in an era that was very similar to what you were talking about. My parents were, very much segregationist, but they all respected and loved a lot of the African American people. Mm-hmm. And my mother would never have mistreated one. It just wouldn't happen.
Right.
And my father was in the public school business, and when they had separate and equal facilities, my father believed in equal facilities, and he was really largely responsible for building the Booker T. Washington High School and the football stadium and all that. And he would actually, at the time, we had black sports and we had white. Mm-hmm. And when the black football team would travel to an out-of-town game, my father would get on the bus and go with them.
Oh, that's
so
great.
it was a interesting difference there than you can imagine. And I remember so well when we integrated the schools here in Conroe and Montgomery County, the Booker T. Washington football team was always playing for the state championship.
That's right.
And
that's exactly right.
To this day, I remember going to many of their football games. Mm-hmm. And the chant was, when we finally made the decision to integrate, the students said, integrate and go to state. And that meant that now that we were going to have our black brothers playing on the football team, we could go to the state because we'd have a better team.
Right. Well, it was amazing and astounding to me that people did have that feeling. And, and movies and television started taking had a big impact on the way we thought about things. And so, depending what movies you went and saw and all, but they started showing all the things that had happened and that we didn't know about. In Texas, I felt very like we were the only state, and this was it, and that everybody else, was out there somewhere. But growing up, Texas was all you needed. It was big. We were bigger than everybody else. We were better than everybody else. And so when people would, in the movies, when they'd say anything about Houston or they'd say anything about Texas and say our name, I went, they know about us? That's how I felt growing up, that this place was the only place in the world. And that our family, I know that when it happened, when everybody was like, okay, now, we're going to integrate, we're going to do all this. And it just, the kids were fine with it. It was the grown-ups that had the problem with it. The kids were fine, and we didn't care and all that. And and we did take them as just, you're our friend, you're a human being too, and so it's fine, and that's the way God wants us to look at you. But it was a strange time, it was, and politically, how we got that, we were burdened with that reputation. When did that happen, do you think? When was that transferred over from, like, because when you talked about that it was Republicans that helped push through the Civil Rights Bill, correct? With LBJ.
Yes. Well, it is a difficult thing to understand in terms of how the African American population votes, generally speaking, in elections, almost solidly Democrat. And when you know the history of the way they were treated in the South, it was primarily by people that were Democrats.
Right.
In Alabama, for instance, when they had the dogs and all that sort of thing, all the people there, the law enforcement, the governors, and everybody that was an office holder, they were all Democrats. And so it is a little bit, always has been to me, confusing that our African-American friends would continue to vote so solidly with the Democrat Party when really they were mistreated tremendously by the Democrats.
Yeah.
And in the aftermath of the Civil War, it's called Reconstruction, and when the Democrats, when Lincoln was assassinated, that was real, in my opinion, a tragedy for our nation, because he believed in not punishing the South, but incorporating the South back in the Union.
Right.
And when he was assassinated, his vice president was a Democrat, and so he allowed the Democrat Party to reassume the power in the southern states. In Texas, that's what happened. All the Republicans, many of them were African Americans, were voted out because of the sentiment against the North and for segregation. So when the Texas legislature began to write election laws, they wrote those laws so that it would maintain a one-party system in the state.
Right.
And many people are unaware that the Democrat Party did not allow African Americans to vote in their primary.
Right. When I read that, I didn't know that. That was shocking, and that's never brought up in the Sunday morning Meet the Press things. I've never heard that.
Well, of course, the blacks, rightly so, filed suit in Texas courts to overturn that.
Sure.
But every time the Democrats won because they said they were a white-only, not a political party, but a club. And so the courts kept allowing them to continue doing what they did. But finally, a gentleman named Thurgood Marshall took it all the way to the Supreme Court. And in 1948, the Supreme Court overturned that and said that the Democrats had to let African Americans vote in their primary if they chose.
There you go.
And
that is something that I'm telling you, if you made that statement on national TV, the backlash and the fact checking that they would do. Now, wait a minute, is that guy telling us the truth? And they would have a field day. But they'd find out that what you're saying is the truth, and that's eye-opening to a lot of people. We have another break coming up. I hate stopping to talk to you, but we're going to talk just 2 minutes, and then we'll be right back and continue our conversation with Dr. Wally Wilkerson, chairman of the Republican Party here in Montgomery County. And this has been fascinating. Cindy Cochran Show. Be right back.
Conroe now has another first. The Cindy Cochran Show. Mornings at 10 a.m. on irlonestar.com.
In a world where everyone with a smartphone is a photographer, unique images still stand out in local newspapers, magazines, and on the internet. Writer and photographer Brad Meyer has gained a reputation for innovation and quality, specializing in an editorial approach to portraits and event photography. For information, visit BKMEYER.com, or call 281-221-4812.
Are you interested in learning more about preparing quick, healthy, and safe meals for your family? Would you like to spend time with others learning tips and tricks, along with practicing and tasting nutritious food? If so, the On the Road to Healthy Living Mobile Cooking School is for you. Call Amy Ressler at Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service at 936-539-7825 to find a class near you or volunteer to host a class.
Hello, I'm Bonita DeRosa, Animal Control Officer for the City of Willis. We invite you to tune in to Lone Star Internet Radio every first and third Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. for the Willis Hour. On the first Thursday of the month, the Willis Hour will be covering upcoming events and news about the city. Join in the conversation with your city officials and other leaders in the community. On the third, we will be doing a recap of the last City Council meeting. The mission of the City of Willis is to provide high-quality services, accountability, and professional commitment to our citizens. We pledge to provide those who live, work, and visit our city an effective government that is open and responsive to the needs and values of the community. Again, we invite you to tune in on Lone Star Internet Radio every first and third Thursday of the month at 11 for the Willis Hour.
SPCA PetSnap of Montgomery County is a 501c3 all-volunteer-based rescue and adoption organization with a no-kill policy for healthy and adoptable animals. Our goals are fourfold: to rescue and rehabilitate homeless animals, to provide a safe haven for the animals until a suitable adoption or foster care home is found or until they are reunited with their owner, to educate the public about the great need to reduce pet population, which includes the importance of having their pets spayed and neutered, and to further the cause for humane and responsible pet ownership, and to provide a low-cost spay-neuter clinic for people who are unable to afford to spay or neuter their pets otherwise. SPCA PetSnap of Montgomery County encourages you to think adoption first. You can contact us at www.spcaofmc.com.
Conroe now has another first, The Cindy Cochran Show, mornings at 10 a.m. on irlonestar.com.
We are having a great time on the Cindy Cochran Show this morning with Dr. Wally Wilkerson, and he has been so kind to come over and talk to us about the history of the Republican Party here in Texas, and then the history of some of the decisions that were made on behalf of the African American community that was sponsored, pushed, and supported by the Republicans. And many people have no clue that that's how a lot of things that got through the help the African Americans happened because of the Republicans, and it wasn't the Democrats. I got to say, there's a thing that's kind of causing a lot of buzz around. You're going to hear about this interview, and it's going to be played over and over and over again. You know how they do that. Joe Biden was in an interview and praised Bernie Sanders, praised him, said all these great things about him, and the things that you feel like you just very obvious digs against Hillary. And I mean, the community is just going crazy over this. MoveOn.org has moved on past Hillary and is now talking about Bernie in a positive way. So she's in trouble. Doesn't mean it couldn't still happen for her. But Iowa and New Hampshire are looking really interesting on the Democrat side. But I just wanted to let you know that that's being reported, and you're going to be hearing about that a lot. And in fact, in New Hampshire, Sanders is leading Clinton by 14 points, and that thought never crossed her mind, I am sure. But now, Dr. Wilkerson who was a practicing physician here. He started in 1958. He retired in 97. But all his life he's been given to the Republican Party and helping bring awareness and helping bring a lot of the candidates up for election, helping them get through that process. And they're there, the Republican Party is there to make everybody aware of who these candidates are and what they believe in, and then everybody, of course, has their own choice to make it on that. But we were talking about how there's so much misconception about the Republicans and them being racist and all that. It just always drove me crazy, like, where that all came from. But Dr. Wally, you had a story about one of your patients in your practice. Can you tell me that story?
Oh, sure. This gentleman was a very respected, well-respected amongst African Americans as well as white citizens in the Willis area. He was an expert carpenter, and he happened to be a patient of mine. And we would chat a little bit about politics from time to time, and he told me the story about when he decided he was going to go vote in the Democrat primary, because in 1948, as I mentioned, the Supreme Court ruled that the Democrats had to allow African Americans to vote in the primary. Now, they could vote in the general election, but because all the offices were filled in the primary, really the vote was, other than for president, was really didn't amount to anything, because all the Democrats had already been nominated and elected, because there were no Republicans on the ballot at that time. But anyway, he decided after the Supreme Court ruling, I think it was in 1950, he was going to go vote in the Democrat primary in Willis. And he told me that he went to the polling location and he went in, and of course that really astounded a lot of the people that were there working. And he said, "I'm here to vote." And of course they told him, "Well, you can't vote." And he said, "I can." Said, "The Supreme Court says I can vote." And so they went, the election people went back in a little huddle and talked, and then they came back, and a spokesman said, "Okay," to the African American gentleman, "we're going to let you vote, but do not go tell your friends that we allowed you to vote." And so he went and he cast his vote, and he left the polling location. And I asked him, I said, "Well, gee, weren't you kind of fearful of physical harm or something?" And he said, "Well, I knew most of the people. I didn't think that was very likely, but as I left, I could hear footsteps behind me, but I didn't turn and look. I just kept walking, and eventually they disappeared, and I went on about my business." So he did cast his vote.
What's funny is it reminded me of the story about Jesus who healed the leper, and he said, "Now don't go tell anybody," because that's the perfect thing you say to somebody when you want them to spread the news that what had happened. And so I'm sure if I had been him, the natural thing to do is like, I'm going to go tell everybody. They told me not to tell anybody that, that I did this. So that's a great story. I love that, and that's why I think how many books?
Well, there's still members of his family, I think, live there. His name was Isaac Philpott, Philpot, and but he was known as an expert carpenter, and I mean he probably built a lot of the buildings and things right in the Willis area.
So he has family still. There's still family there. I think there are
probably still some of his family there.
That's great. What a wonderful story. Now, have you written a book about any of these the experiences you've had, events you've had that we need to be looking at?
Well, no, I've never written a book. A lot of people have said I need to write a book,
yes!
but I just never have taken the time to do that. I put together, some little tidbits of history and called political milestones here in the county, and a lot of people are interested in reading that. So it's only about 10 pages long right now.
No, but Dr. Wilkerson, your personal experiences and what you have seen and heard and were aghast or are proud of, all those things, when you put your personal, self behind that and said, "This is what happened to me, this is what I saw," and stuff, people love that kind of stuff. And so with what you've been through, and do you feel like that when you talk to a politician when you hear them do their speech or their political speech and all, do you feel like you have the spidey senses that come up and go like, this guy isn't telling the truth, this guy is a phony? Can you pick the phonies and the real ones now, since you've been at this so long?
Well, I should be able to, and I think maybe I am, but occasionally I've turned out to be in error. But most of the time, yes, I think I can weed out those that, as you say, are phonies.
Right. And sometimes it's, to me, and this is terrible because you're not supposed to make those snap judgments to people. I understand that. But there is something, an aura about them that they bring into the room, and you go like, wait a minute, this doesn't even feel right. Well, he shook my hand. He shook it. I didn't even feel anything there in the handshake. There was nothing there, and I look in his eyes. I don't see anything. I think as human beings, we tend to do stuff like that. And with politicians, when they say the same things over and over again, boy, I think that American public, it took them, 200 years, but I think that they're starting to wake up to go like, you know what? I don't care if Donald Trump has weird hair, and I don't care if Donald Trump, but at least I feel like I know more about him and his faults and all that. I feel like he's showing me everything I need to know, and does that make a difference in whether he's going to be able to find the right people to put around him to do the things we need done? And see, to me, that's what bothered me about Obama. I looked at the people that he gathered around him, and those people couldn't be vetted for, dog catcher a lot of times. And so you go like, wait a minute. There's something that we need to be looking beyond this guy's, like who he's going to choose to enforce a lot of the laws that we have and the visions that he has. When Donald Trump came out and said, we're gonna build that fence between us and Mexico, and we're gonna make them pay for it, became such a rally cry for so many people. Jimmy Fallon said that he was going to be on his show last night, I think it was last night, and he said, the security's tight, we had to build a wall all the way around the station, and he made us pay for it. So it's become a fun thing, with him. But people are waking up, and they do have a different sense about how they're looking at the politicians. We'll get into that more after we come back from this break, and we want to also tell everyone thank you to BK Meyer's Photography. He is amazing. Brad Meyer, who supports this program. So anyway, we will be back, and don't want to miss a second of Dr. Wally Wilkerson.
The Cindy Cochran Show, real reality radio.
Doing business since 1985, Assistance League of Montgomery County is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization where all proceeds stay in Montgomery County. Through our Operation School Bell program, we have provided new clothes to over 50,000 students in our county. Visit our thrift shop at 126 North San Jacinto Street in downtown Conroe, or call us at 936-760-1151. Don't forget to like us on Facebook.
The Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service has been dedicated to educating Texans for over a century. In 1915, the Extension Program was established under the federal Smith-Lever Act to deliver university knowledge and agricultural research findings directly to the people. Ever since, AgriLife Extension programs have addressed the emerging issues of the day, serving diverse populations across the state. Texans turn to Extension for solutions in horticulture, agriculture, 4-H and youth, and family and consumer sciences. Extension agents respond not only with answers, but also with resources and services that result in significant returns on investment to boost the economy. Join us Fridays at 1 o'clock for the AgriLife Extension Hour.
In a world where everyone with a smartphone is a photographer, unique images still stand out in local newspapers, magazines, and on the internet. Writer and photographer Brad Meyer has gained a reputation for innovation and quality, specializing in an editorial approach to portraits and event photography. For information, visit bkmeyer.com or call 281-221-4812.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids removed from their home because of abuse and neglect, and we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
The Cindy Cochran Show. You ain't heard nothing yet.
And we're back on the Cindy Cochran Show, having an amazing, informative conversation with Dr. Wally Wilkerson. And we just cannot thank you enough for coming down here and talking to us. I do need to, when I say the elephant in the room, I'm not talking about you, Dr. Wilkerson. There is something that's going on that everybody's been buzzing about, and that's El Chapo being captured, and that Sean Penn may have had something to do with that. How interesting. And they're trying to figure out, should he be responsible for anything legally? Can we do anything to Sean Penn to shut him up or keep him away from these people? And no, that he can't. I don't think they found that legally he's done anything wrong. But if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't probably found him. And I think who helped set up that interview was a soap opera queen in Mexico that had been tweeting back and forth and texting back and forth with El Chapo. He loved her. He thought she was great, and that she played a character like him in the soap opera. So he thought she could identify with him. So he reached out to her, and so they started talking. And then she helped Sean Penn get this interview with El Chapo, and they were able to trace them. And that's just so funny to me that anybody would tweet, text, or anything that someone who was trying to hide away from the law, and that Sean Penn and the soap opera queen could find El Chapo, and that the NSA and all of our listening devices could not pick up on. They had to figure it out through finally a celebrity getting involved in it, and they got him. And now it's going to take, they think, a year to get him back to the United States. They are going to try and extradite him to the United States, and oh boy, won't that be fun to see that trial. Oh yeah. So anyway, I just had to make the statement that we found out that how and who set up that interview just by chance. So I want to let you in on that. And now back to Dr. Wally Wilkerson. He was a practicing physician, but all along his heart was with the Republican Party, and it feels like single-handedly. I know you feel like there are a lot of people, Dr. Wilkerson, that made this happen, but that you were the driving force that turned this county, and Montgomery County is a big county, and turned this county from Democrat to Republican. And it was not done easily, I'm sure, and there were a lot of meetings you had to go to. And I don't know how you guys do it. I do not know how y'all meet so much and to try and get things accomplished. And every meeting I've ever gone to, Dr. Wilkerson, I felt like, you know what, we could have done this in 10 minutes if you'd have just gotten right to the point. But we had to go through all these things. Do you ever feel that way whenever you're having to meet with all these people?
Well, I really enjoy it. I learned from my mentor as a physician that to be a good doctor, you have to be a good listener. And fortunately, I learned to be a good listener. And I practiced medicine in the days when you didn't have all these scans and all these other types of tests that are done. Mm-hmm. And you actually had to listen to your patient, right, and talk to them about their complaints or the way they felt, and come up with a conclusion as to what might be the problem.
I wish you were still practicing.
Well,
those doctors
I have a lot of people that come to me frequently and voice complaints about the way medicine is practiced these days, yes. But that's the way it's going to be, and it's not going to change any. But I practiced medicine in what I would call the golden age, mm-hmm. And it was a different story today.
Yeah, because I know you've heard people tell you, or you go and you sit down, you wait forever, and the doctor comes in with, his assistant and says, "Hey, how are you doing? Hey, let me, okay." And they don't listen to anything that you say, and you get flustered, and you realize you got to write this down. You got to write down everything you're going to ask him, and then start, going through the list. And I was in the doctor's office, and this, it wasn't the doctor, it was his nurse, comes in, and she's the one that's going to tell me what I need to do. And I tell her what the problem is, and she says, "Just a minute, let me Google that." And she pulls out her tablet and starts Googling the information that she needs. And I could have done that at home. I could have stayed at home and done that. And now I've been reporting, since my show began, I reported about where you're going to be able to just over the internet. They've got it where you can go over the internet and talk to a doctor and spend more time with a doctor over the internet, and you pay a flat fee. It's a flat fee, and they're called concierge doctors. Yeah. And it's just amazing to me. And that now they're going to be able to do, now the progress of the technology in the computer and what you're going to be able to see, feel, and everything. They'll be able to hook you up and find out if your blood pressure is good or bad or whatever. Right. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, there's
for you
some good
to see
things that have come out of advanced technology, no question about it.
That's right. But no one could replace someone like you, Dr. Wilkerson, and we are so happy that you came and blessed us with some of your time. We really do feel like we're in good hands with you there. And I know you have probably a lot of people that are following you and around and just want to learn from you and see what it took to turn this county around. And so hopefully we'll have you on again before the election, the national election, and we know that the March 1st is when they vote for the primary. Is that right?
That's correct.
And
March the 1st.
Early voting starts the middle of February 16th.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it starts, and so we're going to get everybody riled up and know with Richard Schischler, and he's having the candidates are coming on in the morning. If you guys want to listen to them live and call in and talk to them. So we're here for you, Dr. Wilkerson. Anything you need us to tell that the community needs to know about, let us know. We're here for you.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed being here.
Thank you. And listen, guys, we have tomorrow Michael Player. We really love to talk about the country music scene and all, and I have found and fallen totally in love with Chris Stapleton. Where has this guy been? He's amazing. We're going to analyze his song and talk about all the things that are going on. So, guys, don't miss it. The Cindy Cochran Show, all the way to Friday, every morning, 10 to 11. And go to my Facebook, The Cindy Cochran Show, and let me know what you think, what you want to talk about, and also to find out what's going on. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, BK Photography, for being a sponsor of this show. And we will see you tomorrow. Have a great day. God loves you. God's got this. And make somebody happy.
Thank you for checking out a podcast on Lone Star Internet Radio. Lone Star Internet Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station, broadcasting from the heart of Conroe, Texas. If you are interested in sponsoring a program for Lone Star Internet Radio, just visit us online at irlonestar.com or message us on Facebook. We are always taking song requests on Twitter, and if you are interested in getting involved with the station by either hosting your own show or if you want to be a DJ, just contact Dick at irlonestar.com. Lone Star Internet Radio, Montgomery County's community radio station.